There is a version of you that most people, including you, have never met. It is not the face in the mirror. It is not your name, your profession, your tribe, your religion, your academic qualifications, or even your present circumstances. It is something much deeper. Some ancient traditions described it as the hidden man. Philosophers called it the higher self. Modern psychologists speak of untapped human potential. Neuroscientists point to the extraordinary adaptability of the human brain. Whatever language we choose, they all point toward the same mystery. There is more within you than your daily experience has revealed. Think about a tiny seed. To the eye, it appears insignificant. Yet concealed within it is an entire forest. The oak tree is not manufactured from outside. It unfolds from what was already hidden within the seed. The environment merely provides the conditions for expression. Human beings are remarkably similar. Every invention, every masterpiece, every scientific breakthrough, every civilization, every symphony, every work of genius first existed as an invisible possibility inside someone's mind before it became visible in the world. The visible always follows the invisible. This is one of nature's oldest principles. A river begins as a tiny spring. A towering mountain begins beneath the earth. A butterfly begins inside a cocoon. Morning begins while the world is still dark. Growth is almost always invisible before it becomes obvious. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of humanity is not poverty. It is not ignorance. It is not lack of opportunity. The greatest tragedy is dying without discovering who you could have become. Most people spend their entire lives defending the limitations of the person they currently are, instead of discovering the limitless person they were designed to become. History quietly confirms this. There was a time when human beings believed flight belonged only to birds. Then two bicycle mechanics imagined otherwise. There was a time people believed diseases were curses. Curiosity transformed medicine. There was a time continents were separated by fear. Explorers crossed oceans that others believed impossible to navigate. Every age inherits its own impossibilities until someone refuses to believe them. What changed? Not the universe, the human mind. This reveals a profound truth. Many barriers exist first as mental constructions before they become physical realities. The philosopher once observed that we become what we repeatedly practice. Modern psychology reaches a remarkably similar conclusion. The brain continually rewires itself according to repeated thoughts, repeated actions, and repeated experiences. You gradually become the person your habits repeatedly introduce to your nervous system. Missing tha. This is why two people can face the same hardship while producing completely different outcomes. One discovers hidden strength, the other discovers excuses. The difference often lies not in circumstances, but in interpretation. Your interpretation creates your direction. Imagine two sculptors standing before identical blocks of marble. One sees only stone. The other sees a masterpiece is waiting to emerge. The marble is the same. The vision is different. Life responds remarkably to perception. One of the greatest mystical lessons hidden throughout nature is this. Potential is almost never visible at first glance. Gold sleeps inside rock. Oil sleeps beneath the earth. Electricity sleeps inside clouds. Fire sleeps inside wood. Music sleeps inside silence until awakened. Likewise, greatness sleeps inside ordinary people until awakened by purpose. Perhaps you have underestimated yourself because you have mistaken your present condition for your permanent identity. But conditions change. Identity can evolve. Capacity expands. Even your brain physically changes as you continue learning. Nature refuses to remain static. The seasons change. The oceans move. Cells regenerate. Stars are born and disappear. Everything alive grows. Why should you be the only exception? Maybe your greatest ability has never been absent. Maybe it has simply remained untrained. Perhaps the part of you that can solve problems, build wealth, influence lives, inspire generations, and overcome adversity, has been quietly waiting for your permission to awaken. The world does not reward people merely because they possess potential. It rewards those who develop it. Talent hidden serves no one. Wisdom unused changes nothing. Knowledge without action remains decoration. The invisible self becomes powerful only when it begins expressing itself through daily action. That is where true transformation begins, not with wishing, not with complaining, not with comparing yourself to others, but by awakening the extraordinary possibilities that have been patiently waiting within you all along, because somewhere beneath your fears, beyond your disappointments, past your excuses, there exists a version of you capable of far more than you have ever imagined. And in the next part, we will uncover the silent forces that prevent most people from ever meeting that extraordinary person within. Why most people never meet their greatest Felfan. If the greatest version of yourself already exists as a possibility, then a profound question arises. Why do so many people die without ever discovering it? Why do brilliant minds settle for ordinary lives? Why do gifted individuals remain trapped in mediocrity? Why do some people possess immense talent yet produce little impact, while others, with seemingly fewer advantages, transform the world? The answer is hidden in one of humanity's oldest mysteries. Most people mistake their conditioning for their identity. From the moment you are born, the world begins to introduce you to yourself. Concurrents tell you who you are. Teachers tell you what you can become. Society quietly teaches you what is considered possible. Culture draws invisible boundaries around your imagination. Before long, these repeated messages become internal voices. Eventually, you no longer hear society speaking. You hear yourself. And that is the most dangerous stage of all. The prison no longer needs walls because the prisoner has learned to guard the gate. A baby attempts to walk hundreds of times without embarrassment. Every fall is merely information. Failure carries no shame because the child has not yet learned fear. But as years pass, something changes. The fear of looking foolish begins to outweigh the desire to grow. Psychologists call this a fixed mindset, the belief that abilities are largely permanent rather than expandable. Yet nature teaches the opposite lesson. The eagle strengthens its wings by resisting the wind. A river carves through solid rock not because it is stronger than stone, but because it refuses to stop flowing. The bamboo spends years developing an invisible root system before rising dramatically above the ground. Nature never apologizes for gradual growth. Only humans demand instant greatness. One of the deepest philosophical errors is believing that who you are today is the final version of yourself. Nothing in the universe remains unfinished. Everything is becoming. You are not a completed sculpture. You are still the sculptor in the stone. This explains why hardship often introduces people to abilities they never knew they possessed. History is filled with ordinary individuals who became extraordinary only because life demanded more from them. When comfort disappears, hidden capacities emerge. When certainty vanishes, creativity awakens. When familiar paths close, resourcefulness begins to speak. This is why adversity, though painful, has often been the birthplace of greatness. Pressure does not always create character. More often, it reveals character that was already there. Consider coal beneath immense pressure becoming diamond. The carbon was always present. The pressure revealed a new form. Likewise, many people carry remarkable strength that remains invisible until life places a weight upon their shoulders. Yet countless others spend their lives avoiding every challenge. In doing so, they unknowingly avoid the very experiences that would have introduced them to their greater self. The ancient philosophers often reminded their students, know yourself. Notice they did not say, invent yourself. They understood that wisdom is less about creating a new person and more about uncovering the one hidden beneath fear, distraction, and illusion. Modern life, however, is designed to keep attention scattered. Notifications compete for your focus. Entertainment fills every silent moment. Comparison steals your confidence. Noise drowns out reflection. A distracted mind rarely discovers its deepest capacities. Goalfulness begins with attention. The person who can direct attention can direct thought. The person who directs thought can direct action. The person who directs missing tha can gradually direct destiny. There is another silent enemy that keeps people from meeting their highest self. It is the habit of outsourcing responsibility. Some blame the government, others blame their families, others blame the economy, luck, enemies, or fate. Certainly, circumstances influence life, but they do not completely define it. History repeatedly proves that individuals have risen from poverty, disability, oppression, war, and failure to accomplish remarkable things, not because their obstacles disappeared, but because they refused to surrender their agency. Goalful people ask different questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can this situation teach me?" Instead of asking, "Who will help me?" they ask, "What do I already have that I have not fully used?" Instead of saying, "I cannot," they ask, "How might I?" Those small changes in language produce enormous changes in perception. And perception shapes possibility. The greatest self within you does not awaken because life becomes easier. It awakens because your thinking becomes deeper. It awakens when excuses lose their authority. It awakens when curiosity becomes stronger than fear. It awakens when discipline becomes more attractive than comfort. It awakens when you stop waiting for ideal conditions and begin using the ordinary tools already in your hands. The truth is this: many people are doors while people are praying for doors while standing beside the wood, the nails, and the hammer needed to build one. The part of you that can do everything is not waiting for permission from the world. It is waiting for a decision from you. Decision to stop living beneath your possibilities. A decision to become a student again. A decision to think more deeply. A decision to act more courageously. A decision to become relentlessly resourceful. Because the distance between the life you have and the life you could build is often measured not by talent, but by the courage to awaken the greatness that has quietly been waiting within you all along. We will uncover the hidden laws that awaken extraordinary human potential and explain why some people seem to unlock abilities that others never discover. There are laws that human beings invent, and there are laws that human beings discover. A government can create laws. An institution can establish policies. A culture can define traditions. But no king, parliament, or civilization invented gravity. No nation invented the sunrise. No philosopher invented cause and effect. These realities existed long before anyone gave them names. The same appears to be true of human potential. There are invisible principles that quietly govern whether the deeper parts of our abilities awaken or remain asleep. Seize them, and even great talent may lie dormant. Understand them, and ordinary people often accomplish extraordinary things. The first of these is the law of expansion. Everything in nature grows in response to use. A muscle strengthens when challenged. The lungs become more efficient through exercise. The roots of a tree spread farther when searching for water. Even the human brain reorganizes itself through repeated learning and practice. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to form new neural pathways throughout life. This means your mind is not a fixed structure. It is a living landscape. Every skill you practice lays another pathway. Every idea you revisit strengthens another connection. Every challenge you embrace teaches your brain to solve problems more efficiently. What you repeatedly do, you gradually become. Nature whispers this lesson everywhere. The blacksmith shapes steel through repeated strikes. The ocean smooths rough stones through constant movement. A river never apologizes for persistence. It simply keeps flowing until mountains surrender. Perhaps persistence is nature's preferred language. The second law is the law of vision. Human beings rarely move beyond the pictures they consistently hold of themselves. Imagine boarding a ship without a destination. The sea is vast. The winds are unpredictable. Eventually, every current begins to look reasonable because there is no chosen direction. Many people live exactly this way, buzzy but not purposeful, active but not intentional, occupied but not advancing. Vision is more than dreaming. It is disciplined than dreaming. It is disciplined imagination. It allows you to behave today like the person you intend to become tomorrow. The architect sees the building before laying the foundation. The composer hears the symphony before writing the notes. The inventor imagines the solution before creating the machine. Creation begins long before construction. The third law is one that ancient wisdom and modern psychology surprisingly agree upon. Attention is creative. Whatever consistently occupies your attention gradually occupies your character. A gardener knows that whatever receives water will grow. The mind behaves similarly. Feed it fear, and fear multiplies. Feed it resentment, and resentment spreads. Feed it curiosity, courage, wisdom, and disciplined thought, and those qualities begin shaping your decisions. This explains why your daily mental diet matters as much as your physical one. Books, conversations, music, media, friendships. Every influence is quietly planting seeds. Some produce forests, others produce weeds. You become, little by little, what you continually consume. The fourth law is the law of resourcefulness. Many people believe successful individuals possess more resources. Often, they simply use ordinary resources more creatively. History proves this repeatedly. A farmer studies the weather. An engineer studies problems. An entrepreneur studies opportunities. An artist studies beauty. The difference is not merely intelligence, it is observation. The ability to notice possibilities that others overlook. Consider water. It can become steam powerful enough to move engines. It can become ice strong enough to support enormous weight. It can nourish crops, carve valleys, generate electricity, or extinguish fire. The substance remains the same. Only its application changes. Human potential behaves similarly. The greatest resource you possess is not money. It is your capacity to think differently, to adapt, to improvise, to learn, to create value where others see obstacles. The fifth law is perhaps the most mysterious, the law of inner alignment. A divided person exhausts himself. One part desires greatness. Another part fears responsibility. One part dreams of abundance. Another secretly believes it is undeserving. One part seeks excellence. Another continually postpones action. This inner conflict quietly drains energy. Imagine trying to row a boat while one oar moves forward and the other backward. You remain busy, yet you go nowhere. Extraordinary effectiveness begins when your thoughts, beliefs, words, and actions begin pointing in the same direction. Nature offers a powerful image. When sunlight is scattered, it merely illuminates. When focused through a lens, it can ignite fire. Power comes through concentration. Human beings are no day different. The greatest inventors, explorers, leaders, and creators did not possess magical powers. They mastered the art of concentrated energy. There is another lesson hidden in the natural world. Every ecosystem depends upon cooperation. Trees exchange nutrients through underground fungal networks. Bees pollinate flowers while gathering nectar. The rivers nourish forests. The forests protect the rivers. Nothing thrives entirely alone. Likewise, the highest version of yourself awakens not merely to achieve personal success, but to become useful. True greatness is measured by contribution. Your gifts mature when they begin solving problems larger than yourself. Perhaps this is why deeply fulfilled people often focus less on becoming important and more on becoming valuable. Value attracts opportunity. Competence attracts trust. Character attracts influence. Coolfulness attracts responsibility. And responsibility expands capacity. the hidden part of you that can do remarkable things. It is awakened through disciplined growth, focused attention, courageous action, continual learning, and meaningful service. The universe appears to reward those who become increasingly useful, not because life is always fair, but because usefulness creates opportunities that idleness never encounters. Remember this, the oak does not struggle to convince the forest of its strength. It simply continues growing. The river does not announce its arrival. It keeps flowing until landscapes begin to change. The sun never competes with darkness, it simply shines. Perhaps your task is not to convince the world that you possess greatness. Perhaps your task is simply to become it. Because somewhere beneath your current habits, beneath your fears, beneath years of conditioning, there is a version of you capable of learning almost anything, adapting to almost any circumstance, and creating value almost anywhere. That is the part of you that can do everything. And in the next part, we will explore the psychology of limitless resourcefulness, the mental habits that transform ordinary people into individuals who seem able to solve almost any problem life places before them. Imagine placing two people in exactly the same situation. They possess similar education, similar opportunities, similar resources, yet after 10 years, one has built businesses, influenced lives, mastered new skills, and overcome seemingly impossible obstacles. The other is still waiting for life to become easier. What made the difference? It was not merely intelligence. It was not luck alone. It was something deeper. Thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness is the extraordinary ability to create possibilities where others see only limitations. It is the quiet power of the human mind to ask, what can be done, instead of, why can't it be done? The world has always celebrated talent, but history repeatedly rewards resourcefulness. Talent without initiative often remains hidden. Thoughtfulness, however, finds a way to express itself. This is why some of history's greatest innovators began with almost nothing. They were not defined by what they lacked. They were driven by what they could create. There is an old saying that necessity is the mother of invention. There is profound truth in that idea. When comfort disappears, the mind begins searching. When familiar solutions fail, imagination awakens. Pressure forces the brain to form new connections. Modern psychology suggests that difficult problems stimulate creative thinking because they interrupt routine patterns. The brain begins exploring alternative pathways instead of relying on habit. Perhaps this explains why your greatest breakthroughs often arrive after your greatest frustrations magical. But because difficulty forces you to think differently. Nature illustrates this beautifully. A tree growing in an open field develops normally, but a tree growing on the side of a rocky cliff twists, bends, and stretches toward the light. Its environment demands creativity. It does not complain about the mountain. It learns to grow around it. Human beings possess the same remarkable capacity. Sometimes the obstacle is not blocking your path. Sometimes it is teaching you how to build one. There is another psychological principle that quietly governs resourcefulness. The brain rarely answers statements. It responds to questions. If you repeatedly tell yourself, there is no way, your mind stops searching. But the moment you ask, what is another way, something remarkable happens. Your attention changes direction. Your imagination begins working. Your memory starts searching. Ideas that were previously invisible suddenly become noticeable. Questions unlock possibilities. This is why extraordinary people ask extraordinary questions. Instead of saying, I have failed, they ask, what is this experience trying to teach me? Instead of asking, why am I unlucky? They ask, what opportunity am I overlooking? Instead of saying, I don't have enough. They ask, how can I multiply what I already possess? Questions determine perception. Perception determines action. Action determines results. Another hidden enemy of resourcefulness is certainty. People who believe they already know everything rarely learn anything new. Curiosity is one of the highest forms of intelligence. The curious person constantly gathers ideas. The observant person constantly notices patterns. The humble person constantly improves. Imagine a flowing river. Because it keeps moving, it remains fresh. Now imagine stagnant water. It becomes lifeless. The human mind behaves the same way. A mind that stops learning slowly begins to decay. Growth requires movement. Learning requires humility. Carefulness requires curiosity. The philosopher once observed that wisdom begins with wonder. Every child naturally possesses this gift. Children ask endless questions. They dismantle objects just to understand them. They experiment without embarrassment. They are not afraid of looking foolish somewhere along the journey into adulthood. Many people exchange curiosity for certainty, and in doing so, they unknowingly reduce their capacity for discovery. There is another lesson hidden within nature. The spider does not abandon its web because the wind destroys it. It simply begins again. The beaver does not complain because the river changes direction. It adapts. Migrating birds alter their routes when storms arise. Nature is filled with resilience rather than resentment. Perhaps resilience is one of the highest expressions of intelligence. Your ability to recover quickly from disappointment may determine more of your future, than your ability to avoid disappointment. Altogether, every setback contains information. Every mistake carries instruction. Every failure hides feedback. Only pride transforms feedback into defeat. One of the greatest misconceptions is that highly effective people never become discouraged. They do. The difference is that discouragement becomes a visitor, not a permanent resident. They feel disappointment without surrendering direction. They experience fear without abandoning purpose. They encounter failure without accepting it as identity. They understand that emotions are real, but they are not always reliable guides. The strongest tree in the forest is not the one that has never faced a storm. It is the one whose roots learned to grow deeper because storms kept coming. Likewise, every meaningful challenge in your life can either deepen your roots or break your spirit. The choice often depends on your interpretation. This is why perspective is one of the greatest hidden powers. Two prisoners may look through the same window. One sees mud, the other sees stars. The window is identical. Only the mind has changed. The world rarely appears exactly as it is. More often, it appears as we have trained ourselves to see it. Train your eyes to notice opportunity. Train your ears to hear wisdom. Train your mind to search for solutions. Train your hands to become skillful. Train your character to remain steady. Callfulness is not a talent reserved for a fortunate few. It is a discipline. It is the daily habit of refusing to surrender your imagination to your circumstances. Every great builder first became a problem solver. Every respected leader first became dependable. Every admired creator first became a learner. Every extraordinary life was built one resourceful decision at a time. The part of you that can do everything is not the part that knows everything. It is the part that refuses to stop learning. File unmud. It is the part that remains calm when others panic. It is the part that keeps searching when others quit. It is the part that sees hidden possibilities where others see permanent impossibilities. Because every human being possesses two minds, one constantly asks, why me? The other asks, why not me? One waits for perfect conditions. The other creates them. One complains about darkness. The other learns to become a light. Every day, both voices compete for your attention. Whichever one you repeatedly obey eventually becomes your destiny. And in the next and final chapters of this journey, we will discover how to awaken the master within. The The disciplined, resourceful, and purposeful self that can face almost any challenge and steadily become the person it was always capable of becoming. Anything there is an old illusion that has quietly shaped the lives of millions of people. It is the belief that extraordinary people are born different, that somewhere nature secretly selected a fortunate few and poured into them abilities that ordinary people could never possess. But if history teaches us anything, it teaches the opposite. Again and again, seemingly ordinary men and women have risen above extraordinary circumstances, not because they possessed a different kind of humanity, but because they developed a different way of thinking. The true difference between the average person and the exceptional one is often not capacity. It is preparation. When a bridge carries enormous weight, we praise the strength of the bridge. What we do not see are the countless calculations, the hidden foundations, and the years of engineering that made such strength possible. Likewise, every remarkable human being carries invisible foundations. Behind every confident speaker are hundreds of awkward conversation. Behind every skilled musician are thousands of forgotten practice sessions. Behind every successful entrepreneur are countless failures that the public never witnessed. The visible life is always supported by invisible disciplines. Nature demonstrates this principle with remarkable consistency. Before a mighty tree reaches toward the heavens, its roots spend years reaching into the earth. No one applauds the roots. No one photographs them. Yet without them, the tree cannot survive the storm. Perhaps the greatest work you will ever do is the work that no one else sees, the discipline you practice when nobody is watching. The books you read after everyone has gone to sleep, the conversations you have with yourself, the promises you keep to yourself. These quiet moments are not ordinary. They are constructing your future. One of the greatest psychological discoveries is that identity shapes behavior more powerfully than motivation. Motivation rises and falls. Identity remains. A person who says, "I am trying to become disciplined," behaves differently from someone who says, "I am a disciplined person." A person who says, "I hope to become resourceful," acts differently from someone who believes, "I am someone who finds solutions." The stories you repeatedly tell yourself become the architecture of your character. This is why language matters. Not because words possess magical powers, but because words organize thought. Thought organizes action. Action organizes habit. Habit gradually shapes destiny. The philosopher observed that excellence is not a single act, but a habit. Modern neuroscience echoes this wisdom. Repeated behaviors strengthen neural pathways until actions that once required great effort become increasingly natural. Character is, in many ways, practiced consistency. This brings us to one of the greatest secrets of personal effectiveness. Become indispensable by becoming useful. Many people pursue success. Few pursue usefulness. Yet success often follows usefulness like a shadow follows the body. Ask yourself, what problems can I solve? What value can I create? What skill can I master so thoroughly that people naturally seek my contribution? The world rewards those who reduce confusion, remove difficulty, create beauty, inspire hope, or solve meaningful problems. The person who learns to solve greater problems usually creates greater opportunities. This is why learning should never end. Every new skill expands your usefulness. Every book widens your perspective. Every meaningful conversation stretches your understanding. Every challenge increases your competence. If you allow it, imagine a craftsman sharpening his tools every morning. He spends time preparing before he begins working. Many people attempt the opposite. They work continuously without sharpening themselves. Eventually, frustration replaces effectiveness. The greatest investment you will ever make is not merely financial. It is the continual improvement of your own mind. There is another hidden principle that extraordinary people quietly practice. They think in systems rather than isolated events. A farmer understands this. He does not pray for harvest while neglecting the soil. He prepares the ground, plants the seed, waters consistently, protects the crop. The harvest becomes the natural consequence of the system. Life often behaves the same way. Healthy relationships emerge from consistent kindness. Financial stability there grows from disciplined stewardship. Physical strength develops through repeated exercise. Wisdom grows through lifelong learning. Confidence develops through repeated courageous action. The results you desire are often the fruits of systems you have not yet built. Stop chasing outcomes. Start building processes. Nature never rushes fruit. It strengthens roots first. There is also a mystical lesson hidden in light itself. White light appears simple. Yet when passed through a prism, it reveals an entire spectrum of colors. Likewise, the human personality contains far more dimensions than are immediately visible. Within you is creativity waiting to be expressed, leadership waiting to be exercised, wisdom waiting to mature, compassion waiting to heal, courage waiting to act, discipline waiting to awaken. You are more complex than your present circumstances suggest. Do not confuse the chapter you are living with the entire story you are capable of writing. Many people wait for confidence before acting. But confidence is usually the result of action, not its prerequisite. The swimmer gains confidence by entering the water. The speaker gains confidence by standing before an audience. The entrepreneur gains confidence by building despite uncertainty. Movement produces clarity. Action produces understanding. Experience produces confidence. There is one final obstacle that silently weakens human potential. It is comparison. A flower never competes with the mountain. The ocean never envies the sky. The eagle does not wish to become a dolphin. Each fulfills its own design. Comparison distracts you from cultivation. Your responsibility is not to become another person. It is to become the fullest expression of the gifts entrusted to you. The world has enough copies. What it desperately needs are originals. Perhaps the part of you that can do everything is not asking you to become famous. Perhaps it is asking you to become faithful to your gifts, your purpose, your principles, and your daily disciplines. Because when usefulness meets integrity, when skill meets character, when vision meets disciplined action, something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop waiting for opportunities. You begin creating them. You stop fearing problems. You begin solving them. You stop asking whether you are enough. You begin discovering just how much has been within you all along. And in our final chapter, we will awaken the infinite worker within, the quiet force that transforms knowledge into action, dreams into reality, and ordinary lives into enduring legacies. It is there that we will discover that the greatest power you possess has never been outside you. It has always been waiting for your decision to use it. Now we arrive at the most important question of all. What is the part of you that can do everything? It is not a mystical force that grants unlimited powers. It is not the fantasy of becoming perfect. It is not the belief that you will never fail. Rather, it is the remarkable human capacity to learn, adapt, create, persevere, and grow far beyond your present condition. That capacity lives in every healthy mind. It has built civilizations. It has crossed oceans. It has decoded the stars. It has composed symphonies. It has healed diseases. It has transformed deserts into cities and ideas into industries. Exist. The greatest miracle is not that extraordinary people exist. The greatest miracle is that ordinary people can become extraordinary through deliberate growth. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly by wishing. The seed does not become a tree by dreaming. The sunrise does not appear because the earth demands it. Nature reminds us that transformation follows process. Everything worthwhile matures. Nothing lasting appears overnight. Perhaps this is why impatience has become one of the greatest enemies of modern greatness. We admire the harvest, but ignore the seasons. We celebrate the masterpieces, but overlook the years of practice. We applaud the champion, but rarely witness the lonely mornings of discipline. Every enduring achievement is the visible expression of invisible consistency. There is an ancient image worth remembering. Imagine a lamp hidden beneath a heavy cloth. The flame is still burning. Its light has not disappeared. It has merely been covered. Many people live exactly this way. Their creativity has been covered by fear. Their courage has been covered by disappointment. Their discipline has been covered by comfort. Their vision has been covered by distraction. Their confidence has been covered by years of self-doubt, yet none of those coverings are permanent. Roam them one by one, and the light begins to shine again. The greatest battle you will ever fight is rarely against another person. It is the quiet battle between your higher possibilities and your familiar habits. One voice whispers, "Stay where it is comfortable." Another quietly asks, "What if you are capable of far more?" One voice counts obstacles, the other counts possibilities. One seeks excuses, the other seeks solutions. Every decision strengthens one of those voices. Eventually, the voice you repeatedly obey becomes your character. Character, more than circumstance, determines direction. And direction, repeated over time, becomes destiny. This is why small daily choices deserve enormous respect. A single page read today may introduce an idea that changes your future. A single conversation may become a lifelong partnership. A single disciplined habit may improve your health, your finances, your relationships, or your influence for decades. Great lives are rarely built through dramatic moments alone. They are constructed through thousands of ordinary decisions made extraordinarily well. There is another lesson hidden in the stars. When you look into the night sky, much of the light reaching your eyes began its journey years, decades, or even centuries ago. The universe reminds us that today's actions often become tomorrow's visible realities. In the same way, your present efforts may not produce immediate applause. Do not mistake delayed results for wasted effort. Roots grow in silence. So does wisdom. So does character. So does mastery. One of the greatest misconceptions is that success means doing everything yourself. In reality, the highest form of resourcefulness includes learning from others, building meaningful relationships, asking thoughtful questions, and being generous and contributing generously. The strongest forests are connected beneath the ground. The healthiest communities are connected through trust. Human beings flourish through cooperation as well as individual effort. Never allow pride to isolate you from learning. Never allow fear to prevent you from asking. Never allow ego to convince you that growth has ended. As long as you remain teachable, your possibilities remain expandable. And now we return to the title of this journey. The part of you that can do everything. That part is your willingness to become more than you were yesterday. It is your capacity to observe carefully, to think deeply, to learn continuously, to adapt courageously, to serve generously, to persist faithfully, to rise repeatedly after every setback. It is not the power to do everything at once. It is the power to become almost anything through disciplined, purposeful growth. You may not know every answer today, but you can learn. You may not possess every skill, but you can develop one. You may not control every circumstance, but you can control your response, and sometimes your response becomes the turning point that changes your entire life. So, beginning today, read more than you consume entertainment, practice more than you complain, observe more than you assume, build more than you criticize, co-create more than you imitate, encourage more than you discourage. Become more useful than you were yesterday, because usefulness creates value. Value creates trust. Trust creates influence. And influence, guided by wisdom and character, becomes a force for lasting significance. Perhaps, years from now, people will look at your life and describe you as gifted, as fortunate, as extraordinary. They may never see the countless mornings you chose discipline over comfort, the evenings you chose learning over distraction, the moments you chose courage over fear, the days you quietly refused to surrender. But you will remember that your transformation did not begin with luck. It began with a decision to awaken the deeper part of yourself. The part that refuses to be defined by limitation, the part that keeps growing, the part that keeps creating, the part that keeps serving. The part that keeps believing that every challenge contains a lesson, every setback contains a seed of growth, and every new day offers another opportunity to become wiser, stronger, and more effective than the day before. That is the part of you that can do almost anything. And when that part is guided by integrity, wisdom, compassion, and disciplined action, there is no limit to the good you can bring into the world. Thank you for watching. If this message challenged the way you think, don't let it end here. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Mind of Afsok and join us as we continue exploring the timeless ideas that awaken human potential, deepen understanding, and inspire lives of purpose, excellence, and significance. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and keep becoming.